Well, we've already talked today about late planted acres, but let's discuss unplanted acres. If you haven't been able to plant a crop and you won't be able to plant a crop on your soil this year, we've got to discuss that because we want to have a good crop next year, or we want you to have a good crop next year, and we also don't want to have this same problem again. This should be the last time you ever take Prevent Plant if you did take it this year. How are we going to fix all these things?
Well, I like looking at it that way. You know what? We're farmers and we want to farm that ground. You know, it's nice if we get paid on some Prevent Plant. I mean, hey, we've got crop insurance and sometimes you're going to have to use it, but we don't want to. We want to raise a crop every year. We want to be as successful as we possibly can. And for us on our farm, that starts with getting proper drainage.
When it comes to proper drainage too, you can certainly land level your ground. You can shape your ground, you can move that soil around and allow water to run off more quickly. Problem with that is you're going to have more erosion when you do it. Now, I realize there are some cases where you might be forced to do that or feel like you're forced to do that. We would probably suggest you consider grass waterways in some cases. We just want to do everything we can to prevent erosion. Besides that, we would encourage you to take a strong look at tiling. If you're going to tile your land, then you can lower the water table, you will dramatically reduce erosion, and now you're getting rid of that excess water out there, so you're able to plant much earlier each spring, and you hopefully will not have to take prevented planting again.
Well, look at our farm this year, Brian. You know, the crops that we got in early, it was all in the well-drained fields. The ones that didn't get in so early, like even the field that I just picked up a couple of years ago, we couldn't get in because there were a couple areas in the field that we needed to get some tile installed. And it just made all the difference in the world for us.
So what we would suggest to you is take a look at improving the drainage on your farm, because yes, it's one thing if this problem happens to you once, but you know what? It could happen to you again if you don't make some corrections and some adjustments on your farm. So consider tiling, consider doing some surface drainage, but if you're going to do much surface drainage, really look at grass waterways to prevent erosion.
Well, one of the things that also happened this year is, you know what, if you can't get in the field to plant a crop, you might not be able to get in there to control weeds either. And I've seen so many horribly weedy fields as I drive around the country. You know, we didn't get the crop in, but wow, there's been plenty of moisture to help those weeds grow. And when we've got weeds growing out in fields, they're going to be an even bigger problem going into next year if they can go to seed. You look at some of the Roundup resistant weeds, and we get into the Mid-South. If you've got some Palmer pigweed out there, or tall water hemp as you move a little further north, that weed can produce over 1 million seeds per plant. Seriously, over 1 million per plant. So if you let just a few plants go, you're going to be fighting those weed seeds for the next 20 years out in your field. So don't let weeds get out of control. If you have problems, get them sprayed and consider using a residual product too, so you aren't out there every week spraying another shot of Roundup or Gramoxone or some kind of burn down product.
Yeah, but here's the whole thing. What are you going to use? Because the weed species might be a little bit different. We're starting to see Roundup resistant mare's tail, Roundup resistant water hemp. There are a bunch of weeds that Roundup isn't doing the best job on. Now, you could go out there with Gramoxone. That's a pretty good choice. Use a high rate, throw some crop oil in, maybe even some 2,4-D along with it, and you'll really burn stuff down, and you'll burn it down fast. Another new product that's come out is called Sharpen. That's Kicksor that you probably heard advertised. Sharpen, you throw a couple ounces of that along with glyphosate, and you'll have good success. But what happens in a lot of these fields is the weeds get to be 2 feet tall, so you can't just use a low rate on anything. The good news is ag chemicals have come way down in price in the last few years, so it shouldn't cost you that much money to control these weeds with herbicide. We really discourage a lot of people from doing aggressive tillage time and time again in the summertime. I know you can do that. It's a practice that's used all over the country, but you're more likely to have erosion, wind and rain erosion. We really don't want to have to do that. The other way that you can help prevent erosion is put in a cover crop. And what a lot of people do is they'll put blends in there. They might use a legume to help put more nitrogen into the ground. They might use a grass, let's say, maybe it's some oats or something like that, and that will help prevent erosion. That grass will come up a little bit quicker. You know, one of the grass crops, I'm saying. There could be radishes or turnips that would go down into the ground a little bit more and bust up compaction. You have a lot of choices with cover crops. Take a look at this. We've been using some cover crops on our farm. We like the results from that, especially in these unplanted acres. We think they'll do you some good.
So to review, we've got a three-prong approach to dealing with unplanted acres. The first thing is to fix the problem, improve your drainage. The second thing is to control those weeds so you don't have a problem for years to come. And the third thing is get a cover crop out there to stop erosion and potentially make more nutrients available for coming crops.
Well, it's great to have more nutrients available for coming crops. The problem is they might be available for your weeds as well. We'll tell you how to stop this weed coming up next.